I hope you enjoy the documentary. It's about 30 minutes long, and I think it will give you a really good insight on how you can use PCM at every level of school and how important it is for us to change the educational landscape and teach students how to get their needs met and how to communicate. This year, we received international recognition for our 5-pillar approach, which is a very unique and progressive way to approach the academic life of a student.
I found myself being more of an imaginer in terms of end of the year reflections. So I definitely think it's important to recognize that like all people, you know, are a combination of all of these personality types. And so I think different parts of life and different periods of time bring out different parts of you and different parts of your profile too.
PCM came to MUSE approximately 11 years ago when Susie and Rebecca started the school, and they dabbled their foot a little bit in it. And then about 8 years ago, they trained everybody and didn't really have a trajectory for what to do in the classroom other than just making sure that people understood the diversity and could start using vocabulary and channels and psych needs and things like that. And then about 5 years ago, the jump made to fully integrate PCM into every facet of the MUSE school.
One of the biggest reasons that I love PCM inside of the classroom is because you know a little bit more about their different personality types. So I am a harmonizer base and I am a phase rebel, stage thinker. And so some of the kids like persisters or imaginer, those are my top bars, I cannot normally connect as easily. So for me, using this tool, I'm able to communicate with them and give them their, you know, environmental preference and use their channel and know what their psych needs are. So although my psych need would not be to be sitting by myself doing nothing, I know that my imaginer kids might need that.
PCM has helped me become a better teacher by allowing me to understand my students better. I have always understood the harmonizer kids. Those ones are easy for me. I think the biggest jump for me has been in understanding imaginer children.
I think that PCM has helped me teach academics better to different personality types because I know what they're looking for and I know how to deliver that message to them. Some of my thinker kids want all of the information and all of the data, whereas some of my promoter or rebel students want to actually experience it and they want to be moving their bodies and getting that contact in play.
Every student has their name on one of these clothespins, and project to project, day to day, hour to hour, they can move their clothespin to play, ask, care, tell, the channel that they want the teacher to use with them. And so if you go onto our campus, 1st grade, 3rd grade, 5th grade, 7th grade, 12th grade, whatever, and you ask students, you know, what are the 2 channels that you're most comfortable with, they're going to be able to articulate that.
When a parent comes skeptical about the PCM, I find modeling it right in front of them is the best way to do it. Cleanup time is always met with a lot of grunting and I don't want to, I didn't play with that. So getting our children to take ownership of our room and clean up is one of the biggest challenges, and using their channels, and we do it in the morning during soft landing, so parents are in the room and they're seeing this happen. So we'll do a big announcement, bum, 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 it's cleanup time. And I'll turn to my rebel promoters and say, let's see who can pick up the most Legos. Ready, go. And I'll turn to my harmonizers and say, I would love so much for you to help me clean up the crayons. And I turn to my imaginers and I say, pick up that paper, put it on the shelf, come back to me. And parents stand around and watch this every morning and note how we're addressing each individual child. And it's the best way to show it works.
I made it a personal goal to really exercise using different channels. It's like a muscle. There are 4 channels and I'm using all of them and exercising them all of the time every day. So because I'm a base thinker, requestive channel is really comfortable for me, and now that I'm phase rebel, emotive channel is also very comfortable. And I'm using the other 2 just as much. So for me, it is not difficult to switch because that's something I'm used to doing every single day here at MUSE. We are constantly practicing and using different channels all day long.
As we go into high school, we start using the more sophisticated terminology around the channels. So the students know what channels they prefer, they know what channels don't really work well for them, and they're able to express that in writing, they're able to express it verbally, they're able to express it in their journals. So again, it's this amazing awareness of these students know what and how they want to be talked to.
You know, on a high school level, another component is that the way they treat each other, because they know, you know, okay, you're a rebel and I'm a promoter, and I hear them using that language with each other. So a lot of times where you have all those identity issues, or, you know, who am I, and, you know, it gives them a sense of understanding each other a little bit better.
For sure. That happens for me with the middle school kids as well. You know, we have a chart with their channels and they are changing them around. They're talking about them all the time. Sometimes they're changing them within a class period. And they're able to say to each other, that's not my channel, or please use my channel, or whatever the case may be. I'm changing mine all the time as well, so they don't know exactly what I'm looking for each day, because I'm a fluid person too, and this is how I feel today. One day I asked them as an activity in their ORP journal to write what they thought my like core channel was as a bass harmonizer thinker, and it was so interesting because every kid picked their bass channel.
Really?
So we went around in a circle, and my harmonizers are like, you're so compassionate, of course it's caring. My thinkers, you're so logical, you're very clear with your directions, I always know exactly what I'm supposed to do, it's gotta be tell. Are you kidding me? Dude, no way, she throws markers on my head, she's a rebel, sure it's play. And they went all the way around. 100% of my kids picked their bass channel, and then the last kid was like, what is your channel? I think you're just really good at talking to us, and we don't actually know what you are. And it was a really great opportunity for us to talk about that, and then for me to be able to remind them it's not just about you.
And it creates kind of a mutual respect between students and teachers.
Yeah,
because not only am I respecting how you want to be spoken to, the children need to respect how I would like to be spoken to.
Right.
So when a child comes up and says, tie my shoe, whereas before PCM I would have been like, ugh. Now I can say, use my channel.
Yeah.
Randy, I would love for you to tie my shoe. They know. I'm so happy to do it for you. And now that's keeping me. It's a mutual. It goes both ways, which is, we spend a lot of time here. So it's nice to be spoken to the way you want to be.
Totally.
Many people think you can't use PCM in the early childhood classroom, but I think it's the perfect space to utilize these tools. For a lot of children, this is their first connection with school. It's their first time in school. And as a teacher, my goal is to make sure these children feel safe. And there's no better way to do that than to make them feel like they are being heard, that we are using their channels, that they have a safe space to do their work and to play. So it creates a really nice atmosphere of respect for these children who are brand new to school.
So one of the things that's really remarkable at MUSE is to walk in a classroom and realize that every classroom is set up in a way that meets everybody's environmental preferences.
First grade, kindergarten, preschool, early childhood, day one, we start teaching channels and environmental preferences. We start explaining that to the students and how that works and how it's going to be. And it evolves throughout the year.
Here at MUSE, our classrooms are designed specifically to meet the needs of students who need different environmental preferences. MUSE's location is incredibly unique and beautiful. I mean, the drive-in is this panoramic view nestled in the Santa Monica Mountains with just beautiful nature surrounding us. And I think it lends to also the unique environment of the school. Because of that, we are able to get a breath of fresh air and take a walk and be outside of the classroom and be inspired and nurtured by what's around us all of the time.
Every classroom has charts like this with clothespins like this. So students are taught the 4 different environmental preferences, and then they have the power, they have the ability to move their clothespin to what environmental preference they want.
Looking at their classrooms, you know, they tried to incorporate some group-based activities in their old school, but the thing that really stood out for me is the difference of environments, where they don't have to just sit at a desk in a certain shape. I mean, yeah, maybe they weren't in rows anymore and they were shaped in a big U, but it was still sitting at a desk, and that was the only place for them to be. They couldn't go express themselves or go work on a project sitting in a beanbag chair, or sitting on the floor, or sitting on the couch. I mean, just when you go into their classrooms and all the different environmental opportunities that they have at MUSE, it really gives them the space to kind of get what they need done in an environment that's comfortable for them.
I think that environmental preferences are so important in the classroom and have just been life-changing for me, because in traditional schools, I feel like they have to all sit at the desk and be in a chair, and that's what's expected of them. So some of my kids want to be in our cozy corner snuggling up with a little teddy bear. Some of our kids want to be rebelling it out on a wobbly chair. Some kids want that desk and they want to just sit there and be by themselves. So I just think that it's huge to let them be in the environment they want to be.
I love applying that to activities and lessons.
Yeah.
So if I'm with a Rebel one-on-one, it's a game, it's let's do this, it's fun, you're on a wiggly stool, we're broing out. But if I'm sitting down with one of my thinkers, it's very calm. We may be at a table versus wiggly stools, everything is settled. We have maybe a paper pencil activity, and we're both comfortable. And they're learning how they're comfortable, and they're getting the material that they should be getting, that they need to be getting, in a way that they actually hear me and are learning. Yeah. So that
feel good.
And they feel good. Yeah. And I feel good when they're learning. So.
Right.
Now, a lot of times with middle schoolers, they'll do what's most fun to them and not the way that they find their most success in getting work done. So we're constantly reflecting and being self-aware on that too. You really like small group, and that's really fun for you, but where are you getting your most work done? And then making good choices throughout the day and trying them on. You like small group? Show me that you can do it.
Once we get to the second grade, we layer in currencies and we layer in interaction styles. And this is when we start to teach kids about how to speak logical, how to speak through values, how to speak with emotions.
Cool. So through PCM, we have 4 interaction styles. We interact in a laissez-faire type of way, autocratic, democratic, and benevolent. And in my classroom, we use all 4 of those interaction styles daily, just so that all of our personality types feel comfortable within our classroom. So in the morning, it's very laissez-faire. It's come in, it's free choice time. What do you need to do to get your bucket filled? There's drawing, there's sketching, there's reading, there's hugs, there's stuffies, there's lots of energy, there's lots of quiet space. So it's just kind of giving the children the opportunity to do whatever they'd like within reason.
Sometimes there'll be direct instruction, autocratic. I have a math lesson, here's the plan, I'm giving you that information, you're checking back in with me.
Working with a child who shows a lot of rebel energy, I will use the interaction style of laissez-faire, where I am trusting that they will do what it is that they need to do in their style, however that looks, and then come back to the group on their terms and whatever it is that they're doing.
The teachers might say things, I'm going to be autocratic right now, everyone go to lunch. Or let's do a democratic process right now. Who wants to go on a hike, who wants to swim? And so we start educating the students on those different interaction styles and how to speak different currencies or vocabularies to one another. And this coalesces to high school. We're teaching the full-on PCM class, to where students are now getting everything that the teachers have. And it's been invaluable. The students will say they get along with their parents better, they understand their parents better, they have less power struggles and fights with their parents. Our teachers will say that their classroom management skills have gone through the roof because they start to understand what that imaginer is doing or what that rebel's doing, or that thinker really wants information and they're not trying to be sarcastic, or they're not trying to put the teacher down by just bombarding that teacher with requestive channel of thoughts. They just want information.
Starting in high school, 9th grade, students are exposed and trained in PCM. They take the profile and they learn about their personality structure, and through that training, they experience exercises, modeling, and practicing the tools of PCM every day.
It's interesting to me when they know their profiles, the way I interact with them and the way they interact with each other. For example, I have a student the other day, he and I were talking, and I was explaining something to him, and maybe I caught that he was looking at me kind of funny, and all of a sudden he said, "You do know you're talking to a rebel, don't you?"
So they come in as freshmen and they take the inventory, and these students are now at the end of their freshman year able to talk about their psychological needs. We had a freshman student yesterday talking about his passion around punk rock, and he talked about how his psychological need for contact comes through in his love of listening to music, his love of being around all of his friends, especially as it relates to punk rock. So to me, again, that's incredible.
I think one of my favorite things about PCM is just it brings in another diversity piece. You know, some people do like to work alone, and that's okay. and you like to be told what to do, and that's wonderful, and we're all different and we're all great the way we are. And I feel like as a teacher, it's given me that liberty to say that about myself. I like when you tell me what to do, you know, phase promoter, what do you need from me? What do you want from me? And then when I speak to you, I'm using your channel. We all feel comfortable. We're all different. We're all happy all day long. And then also the distress piece is really helpful too.
Totally.
Knowing that I see you in distress, I can identify that quickly, and I know how to pull you out of that so that we still have a wonderful day.
Yeah.
One of the unique things that we have here are called accountability groups. So every year we divide people up into groups of 3 or 5. And monthly they meet with their accountability groups. And the accountability group's sole purpose is to discuss, how am I getting my needs met? And am I doing that daily, weekly, on campus and off campus? And so that's really helped, because a lot of times you'll hear staff will come like, oh, you know, I've been having a hard time getting my needs met, or I don't understand how to do that. I got to talk to my accountability group.
As a base harmonizer, I wouldn't want to rock the boat. I don't want to make waves. It's not that big of a deal. And I'd eat it, and I'd eat it, and I'd eat it. And then all of a sudden I'd be like, oh, I can't, if that happens one more time. And the other person's like, I didn't know you were mad.
With a staff that's all trained in PCM is that I can communicate my distress. Like, hey, I'm feeling flustered. I've got 50 things to do, and I don't know what to, and I'm just machine gun mouth. And they're like, take 5 minutes, come back, I'll watch your kids. And I'm like, okay. You know, they use my channel, they hit my site needs, I go do what I need to get done, I feel better, take a breather, come back. But because I was able to communicate and they knew how to pull me out of distress, that happens like all the time.
One of the things that's profound about MUSE is we make communication skills on par with academic skills. And so it's just as important that students learn how to communicate as it is that they learn how to do math. So new parents get this education, they're aware. Most of the time they're very excited about it. And then once they become a part of the MUSE community, we either do a 1-day training, a 3-day training, and then we offer the advanced training for parents. And they love it.
So MUSE for us, again, is helping us, the PCM class, and for the kids, we see it. Because they're so close in age, we tell them, just resolve your situation, your conflicts, use your channel.
I love when, you know, a parent comes up and they're like, well, oh my gosh, they really listen to you, and they come home and tell us all the things that happened, and like we're struggling, and it's like, okay, what's your channel? And they're like, oh, well, my channel is Till. And I'm like, okay, that's not his channel. Right. So when you're telling him all these things to do, he's not listening to you, because that's not how he receives information, that's not how he learns, that's not how he wants to be interacted with. Right? And they're like, oh, okay. And to facilitate that between the parent and the kid. It's a great learning moment for families when they come to our community.
It's been amazing being able to go through the classes myself, because now when I engage them, it's a lot easier. I joke and say temper tantrums don't last. Because as soon as they start to go negative, I'm able to kind of either play with my youngest and bring him out of that, or with my older one, I can understand what he needs to be able to help get him back to, you know, plus and be able to work together. We're constantly evaluating. I think one of the things the school does is it really boils it down and simplifies it for them. So having one in kindergarten and first grade, you're like, how are they going to understand this persister, promoter, all these big words that we learn? It has nothing to do with that. They learn it in a very simple way. It's, you know, ask, play, tell, care, and it's super easy. And they're okay asking for what they need. Like, I'm in care channel, Daddy. I need you that. You know, I want to play, Daddy. Can we do that?
The other thing that happens is when we do our parent-teacher conferences, we are communicating to the parents, here are the 2 channels that your child is really strong at, and here are 2 channels that you might want to stay away with, and the 2 channels that might cause power struggles. So most frequently, you'll have a parent come in and the mom or dad say, I've been telling them what to do and telling them what to do, and our teachers are able to say, you know, the 2 strongest channels for your child are care and play. And let's work on delivering that content in a play or care way instead of a tell or requestive channel. Parents will say this is probably one of the most beneficial things that they've ever learned about their child, because it's immediate, it's easy. It might take a little bit of time to adjust the relationship and the habit that they have, but it's so easy for them to start to delivering their content in a different way.
At MUSE, we use a blueprint, which is a narrative assessment of our 5 pillars. Our 5 pillars are academics, passion-based learning, sustainability, PCM, and self-efficacy. The
blueprint is what most schools would say a report card is, except for our blueprint is narrative, and it's about 18 pages long. It's a very detailed product for how the student is doing in the 5 pillars of MUSE. And we get very detailed with the PCM component, how the teachers are using PCM in the classroom and how parents can use PCM at home.
When the parents come in, we all sit at a table and the students have a script that they walk us through, and it talks about how they're doing in each class and how they're getting their needs met through PCM. And often the parents are surprised because the students are sharing a lot. They're surprised at how well we know each other. And they're curious about that. Like, how did you get him to say that? Or why? She never says that at home. And so they want to know more about those channels. And that's a really good time to start explaining and modeling and showing how the channels and the different needs create a much more open environment.
Everything is incredibly harmonious because the children know what PCM is all about. And they only know what PCM is all about is because the teachers are incorporating it into their teaching.
One of the amazing things about having PCM in education is the ability for even the youngest child to start becoming more self-aware of what their needs are and being able to convey that to another person.
I think that it has molded closer bonds with my coworkers. We have become really great friends, and also having admin and the head of school being trained in PCM has just been huge to be able to go and communicate my needs. Past schools that I've worked at, they don't really care about your different personality types. They want you to fit into a certain kind of box. And I feel like at MUSE and using PCM, we are all told that it's okay to be different.
With our students that are in 8th grade and under, we're not talking about base phase, we're not diagnosing with base phase, we're just talking about what channels are you strongest at and what channels do you have difficulty with. And then we communicate that with the parents, with the goal being that by the time they leave MUSE, they are fluent in all 4 channels.
Throughout my career, teachers have always been so quick to diagnose children with something's off, where I see someone on the spectrum. And through PCM, I've realized how many of these children do not have behavioral issues. They do not need to be labeled with medical issues. It's their channel. Most of these kids are imaginers who, while it looks like staring into space is something to be concerned about, the second you tell them what to do and give them a couple steps and ask them to come back to you, they're doing it and they're thriving. So it's helped me realize at this young age, not everything is such a big problem. There are ways to connect with these children.
I'm so excited that I'm giving my kids this opportunity because there's so many things that life is going to throw at them. So why not allow them to be the healthiest little human beings that they can be?
It's been really valuable in my relationships, especially with my peers, because we're all better able to understand each other in the intimate. It's really intimate in our classroom, so for us to better understand each other and in order for us to understand each other's psychological needs and our distress sequences and things like that, it's just really valuable, and it allows us to kind of mesh better as a group and help each other.
I just feel as though I'm able to pull as much out of them creatively with just communicating better with them. There's no power struggle. I am a certain way, and not everybody in my classroom is wired the way I'm wired. And having that knowledge and exercising it every day and learning as much as I can with the tools of PCM, I can unlock students that are very different than I am. And we still can connect, and we still can do art together, and we still can produce things as a team, even though we may be very different.
You know, the one prerequisite to learning something is to be open, right? And so you can't unlock a lock with a lock. You know, with PCM, it's a key to opening them, because if you're open, you're going to learn. So if you're comfortable, I'm going to put you in this chair, we're going to approach you in this channel. It's just about being open. I know for me, if I'm not open, I really don't want to learn anything. I'm not very interested in what you have to say if I'm not going to be open. And I think with the kids, if you're able to open them up, they're able to learn. And it's massive.
I mean, I just can't say how grateful I am for having the tools of PCM and being able to incorporate them into my personal life, into my work life, and into the future of every project that I work on.
What I find in teaching parents, especially parents at MUSE, is that It absolutely changes their life. It just changes everything. It changes the way that they communicate with their kids. I had a mom come up to me yesterday, and she has a student who is in middle school, high school, and college. And every time I see her and her husband, they both talk about how it's just changed their lives. That's a pretty amazing testimony for PCM.
I would recommend that other high schools teach students PCM because it's really valuable to understand yourself at a really young age, especially in your high school career or in your middle school career when you're more developing in order to understand yourself in this really almost direct way.
We have classrooms like every school in the world has classrooms, with one big exception. 100% of our students during the classroom are engaged because of our teachers' ability to use process moment by moment.
However you are is okay, and we tend to think of a rebel as being a distraction, or he can't think, or she's naughty, or that's a behavior we need to squash. Let's get him in the chair, and if they would just follow directions, and it's like, actually that's who they are.
Yeah.
And that's okay, and that's awesome, actually. And how can we teach them? Because they're all our students, and everyone has the right to learn just as much as every other one.